Hello, today I'm speaking to Frankie Archer. Frankie is an English fiddle player and singer. She's also a magic witch on electronics. She brings traditional folk tunes into the 21st century, and she is a powerful woman on stage and off stage. And I'm so happy to talk to you today, Frankie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's very exciting to be here. It's nice to see you. Yeah.
Frankie, how would you describe what you do as an artist?
That's a big question, and I've never had it put exactly like that. What I do as an artist, quite in summary, I take very, very old traditional lyrics and tunes and then arrange them and produce them and put them in a new context in recorded music and in live music.
Yeah, I find that so fascinating and inspiring, and I really want to talk to you about that a little bit later. But maybe just to give a little bit of context, I know when we first met, which is like a long time ago, your life looked quite different, and then you made a conscious decision to actually focus full time on music. What brought you to that step?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much full time on music because I do have a day job still, but full power, full heart on music. Yeah. I made the decision that I wanted to call myself a professional solo musician, I guess is the way I see it. And the reason that I did that was because I had always been a fiddle player, just playing tunes for fun, which is absolutely blissful, you know. But then there was one Ethno, one kind of big group learning session where I wanted to prepare a tune from my own history and my own roots. And I kind of arranged it for lots of other people. So I took a tune, really old tune from the northeast of England, and I just prepared it in lots and lots of different layers. And I basically made it into a song. And then I thought, oh, actually, I really like that. I'm quite proud of it, and it doesn't sound like anything else that I've heard. So that was my kind of identity forming in a way. And because I've never seen myself as a singer or like solo musician, I suppose it took that I had to create it for other people to kind of I don't know, kickstart me solo music identity.
Yeah, it's great. And it's so inspiring. Like I've kind of watched you through this whole process. And I met you as a fiddle player only. And it's so inspiring, deeply inspiring, everything that you put on the road. Like it's really, I'm in so much admiration of your path that you chose. And what I find especially exciting is exactly that you bring your very own old tradition and you bring it into today's time, and that creates a completely unique sound. And I just wanted to ask you, what is your creative process? What's the thinking behind this? How do you think about this process? Can you share a little bit?
I'm not very good at answering this question because a lot of it's very intuitive, and then afterwards I just forget what I've done. So a lot of the time, though, I will start with. Normally, I have like a feeling that I want to create. I have like an urge to create. So there's something bubbling away a little bit, maybe. Or sometimes maybe I'm a bit more disciplined and think, right, I want to write something. I'm going to sit and do it. So normally I'll start by looking in old manuscripts online. I don't have like the books, but I'll just search through collections. Like there's lots in traditional English and Northumbrian music. There's lots and lots and lots of collections of old folk songs because it was kind of fashionable to do this, I guess, at some point, especially, well, maybe a bit earlier than Victorian. So there's collections from like the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, and I would normally dive into one of these books online, read the lyrics, the words, and then wait for something to catch me imagination, I guess. And then normally I tweak the words a little bit, depending if I want to shed light on a new message or change the context. And then sometimes I'll keep the melody, sometimes I'll make a new melody. And then I just go a bit strange and unusual with the production, like deciding what elements to add, as in like strange manipulated sounds, or a lot of like more modern sounds like synths and drum tracks and stuff like that. And then that's how I build the song. Always starting, well, normally with traditional set of words.
Yeah, and it's so inspiring because you actually did that as a one-woman show for many years. I understand that you're soon also going to play with a band, which is exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So that's, I mean, I don't know if it'll happen, but I think it'll still be me doing the arranging and the production and the writing of the music. But yeah, now I've got a band in live contexts, which is
wow,
beautiful.
yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the message of your songs. So I've watched all your YouTube. I've never seen you live in that as that solo artist that you are now. But your music often seem to address quite dark topics. Is that only my impression, or is that can you talk a little bit about the message you're?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, there's this like, at least in English, Scottish, Irish traditional music, there's this kind of stereotype that folk music's all really depressing and it's all murder stories and stuff like that. And there is a lot of that. And I think it's because the more tragic songs, the more tragic stories are kind of a bit more memorable because they're very hard hitting, so they survive to be told. So that's in general. But in my music, a lot of the time I resonate with songs that are from women or about women. And obviously there's lots of stories about, well, harrowing stories about women and what they have to go through, which it could be tempting to look at in a quite nostalgic way, like a rose-tinted way, almost kind of forgiving some of the violence and bad treatment in these songs, thinking, oh well, you know, it's just romantic, or it's just a bit of a drama, whatever. But yeah, it's important to, I think, look at these old songs and think, what is actually happening, what's actually being said, and how is that relevant to today? Because a lot of the songs, the very same stories are playing out today, just with different names, different
Yeah,
context,
yeah.
like almost exactly the same thing is continuing today.
And thank you so much for speaking out about that, because I so agree, and I really think it's time for us to speak about it, especially for us women, to name it and say it as it is.
Yeah.
And I admire you so much for giving this aspect a voice, because I think it's well overdue that this has to change.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Sorry, now I lost my track because I got so emotional talking about
Oh,
it. But yeah, it really, I really feel it's very, very close to the heart. Um, so, you know, as you said, in folk music, I mean, obviously like we come from a tradition, and there is like the power of our ancestry and our roots, but then also like we live in the times that we live, and you've just talked about like that some things apparently are not so different from back then, but other things are very different. What's that dialogue like in your artistic expression between, like, I suppose, your connection to your ancestry? How important is that in your art? And also the dialogue with modernity, the times we live in.
so for me, in terms of the ancestry, uh, I think of that specifically with tunes from the northeast of England, because that's where I'm from, and you can hear it in my voice. There's like a certain certain accent. I'm sorry if anybody's struggling. Maybe there's going to be subtitles.
I love it.
But so there's a lot of dialect where I'm from, and that is alive in a lot of the traditional songs. So there's some songs like Peacock Followed the Hen, which is kind of just a song all about sex, really. And it goes, I'll need hour and an hour again, all night over and over again. So I sing it like that. And also with songs that don't have dialect, that are in more of a like Southern English, I guess, I would sing in my own accent. And that's my way of, well, I don't do it intentionally. I do it because anything else feels wrong, you know. But that connects me to my ancestry, and also local places pop up in traditional songs. That connects me as well. But also the kind of endurance of these themes of what people do, what people go through, what people say, opinions, situations, you know, all of these things do seem very similar. And there's a lot of the time where you would look at a traditional song and uncover an opinion that is still there today, in a way, a culture that is still there today. Like in a song, there's a song called Barbara Allen, which is one of the most collected traditional songs in the English language. And basically, very long story short, this powerful man decides that he wants to marry somebody called Barbara Allen. He sends his men to collect her, and she says no. And then she's painted as this cruel woman, this like hard-hearted woman. And that's the moral of the story. And clearly this is still a thing. Like, women find it very hard often to say no to men. And sometimes when they do, no isn't accepted as an answer, or it's challenged, or you need to explain further. And a woman who says no to a man is seen as frigid, but a woman who says yes to a man is a slut, you know, all of these things. This is baked into the traditional songs. This shows where all of these beliefs come from. So sometimes I'll change the words of a song or add new words to show that. For example, in that song, I sing the whole story the way that it is traditionally sung, but I've added kind of choruses throughout the song. And the chorus says, it's from Barbara's perspective, and it says, I don't owe you anything. I didn't ask for your attention. And lechery is not a compliment. And that's Barbara's voice, because she's been sung about for so long by like this kind of very patriarchal perspective. That's me giving her a voice, being like, actually, I didn't want this. I didn't ask for it. Yeah.
So powerful. I really think it's such an important thing you're doing there, to actually give voice to that. Do you ever get backlash? Do you ever get people criticizing that you're changing the traditional lyrics?
Yeah, not really. But people ask me that a lot.
Uh-huh.
So the idea that people might get pissed off happens more than people get pissed off, unless they're not telling me about it, you know?
Yeah.
I did have. So I should warn that there's like mention of sexual violence and rape and stuff coming up, but the only song that I've written myself, I wrote it to sound exactly like a traditional song. And there's many traditional songs where a man does rape a woman, but it's never ever called that. They used metaphors and things like that, so it's almost, so you can be like, oh well, they just, you know, he took her by the middle and he whatever, you know, you can overlook it, you can romanticize it, but I wanted to show that in many cases this is rape. So I wrote a song to be like a traditional song in disguise, but I said he raped her. And I wanted to show people this is what's happening in these songs. And that one's had a not like a complaint exactly, but when I was performing it live, and I warned everybody beforehand, there was a man in the front row who was like, oh, that's not necessary, you know. And I was thinking, well, if it's making you uncomfortable, then how do you think it might be making other people feel, including women?
Yeah.
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 So that's the only grump I've had ever, but people might be disapproving, I don't know, but they don't tell me.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel, as a woman, I certainly feel at the moment there is an energy of change. There is like things are changing, and I especially feel that women are changing and speaking out more, and like somehow it feels, I don't know, our time has come. Do you have the same, like, what's your experience?
I think probably, I mean, yes, but I think also we're in a bubble, a very
Mhm.
progressive bubble.
Mhm.
Um, more is being done and said from what I'm seeing to call out abuse of women, male violence, things like this. However, I feel like it's a bit of a split. Like I've heard, I can't remember what it is, but I think there was some research, like legit research done to show that in Gen Z, this might be in the UK, I don't know, the Gen Z girls and women are going more towards the kind of left-leaning political progressive side, and the boys are going more towards the right. And that, like, I think this funneling of girls into one place and boys into the other place is a lot to do with socials. It's a lot to do with algorithms thinking, right, you're a girl, you want to see this, and then it like sends you down the path, and then you end up at, I don't know, whatever TikTok wants you to see, basically. But also online spaces being very badly monitored, and allowing kind of harmful and extremist beliefs to be shared and monetized online. So I'm thinking kind of, there's been a documentary out recently called The Manosphere with Louis Theroux. And that's like absolutely blown up on socials in the UK anyway, because it's unveiling this huge misogyny. It's like a revival of misogyny from back to kind of the old days where we thought, well, we're past that, but no, there's so many young men now who are considering their own worth to be how much money they can make, how many like sexy women they can own, basically, and how kind of alpha male superior they can be to them. And it's the same kind of thing which girls are exposed to a lot of the time, like the whole trad wife thing on TikTok. Women are being convinced to stay at home, be financially dependent on a man, just have a load of kids, don't have pain relief during childbirth because it's not like a proper woman way of doing it, So I can't remember the original question that you asked. Yeah, you said, is it getting better? In ways, it's getting better, but there's also so many spaces where it's getting worse. And I think it's always been like this. There's different splinters, there's different splits. Yeah, hopefully on the whole, it is getting better, but it's so hard to actually understand because now in society we're separated so much, kind of online more than in person.
Do you find that artists have a role to play in everything that's happening on the world at the moment? How do you view this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, artists have always had a role to play in these things. From really obvious things like protest songs, to artists just using the platform for good as well. Artists have got huge power, at least on a kind of gigantic popular level. If Billie Eilish comes out and says something, then that gets listened to a lot of the time. But she also would receive a lot of pushback and stick for coming out and saying something political or whatever. But yeah, artists have completely got a lot of power to change things. Defo.
Yeah. And do you find it's like the duty nearly of an artist to use their voice in that way? Or how do you see the line between artists kind of, I suppose the creative realm of just bringing more beauty to the world, but then also there being, I don't know, a message or
Yeah.
a purpose behind?
I don't know. I think probably any art is like legitimate. I don't think you have to be making a big moral statement to be, you can write a nice tune and then somebody can enjoy hearing it. And that's as far as it goes. And I think there is also a place for that. Because sometimes people just need pleasure from art. Sometimes if people are going through something difficult, they don't want to go through something difficult again by listening to, really harrowing art. Sometimes the power of art is that it's not non-offensive, non-kind of provocative or whatever, I guess. Yeah. If there's a kind of responsibility, like if there's an obligation, I don't know. I think it depends on the more power you do have as an artist, maybe then, because so many people are looking up to you, you do have an obligation, at least not to say, I believe this is right and wrong, but to rebuff anything that's kind of put on you from outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, some musicians' work is used in, I don't know, extremist political propaganda. If that happens, not your fault, probably, but you need to call it out. You can't remain completely silent in some situations like that. What do you think?
Well, that's the reason why I'm asking, because I kind of sit on the fence a little bit, because I've also experienced that sometimes by not saying things explicitly and holding the space for like kind of a neutral space, there's also something very special that can happen. And I think it's a fine line, and I'm not sure if there is a fits-all answer to that question. I think it's a very complex question, but something that I've been asking myself a lot also with the projects I do is like, when is the moment that I need to speak out, and when is also the moment where I will not say the obvious thing, for kind of holding space for something, maybe a bigger purpose behind it. And it's a touchy subject, I find, especially in recent times. It's become more and more complex.
Yeah. And also, as anybody, you could get, I don't know, blacklisted or stereotyped as being, oh, she always complains about this, she's always saying this, and then nobody would listen to you. So maybe in that as well, there's a balance that, in order to not be dismissed completely, you need to mix it up with what you're doing and saying, I guess. Maybe that's a parallel thing to what you were talking about.
Well, yeah, I think I'm referring a little bit to the context that we first met in. I mean, we met during Ethnos and in one of my projects, Folklang, and they're kind of settings where, I mean, obviously there's a very strong message behind the project, but I think the strength of the message is that it's not talked about. That's what makes the message so incredibly powerful. And I've always kind of felt very protective of that space, of it not being exploited for political reasons, not being exploited to kind of shove a message down people's throats, because I felt the symbolism of the thing was so strong.
Yeah, the power is in the action.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than talking about it, because you can talk about something as much as you want.
Yes.
Unless you're actually doing it, then it doesn't make a difference.
So true. How would you say did this whole episode or period in your life where you attended ethnos and gatherings like that, how did this influence you as a human being and as a musician?
Oh, well, I'll do musician bit first because it's easier. I learned so many different styles of playing in terms of technique, ornaments, melodies, harmonies, but also the kind of feeling of the music. And sometimes the same feeling pops up in songs from opposite sides of the world, And sometimes you can detect like certain feelings pop up an awful lot in one culture or another culture or tradition or whatever. So yeah, it made us a lot more open and versatile as a musician, because Bulgarian like got in my head. Bulgarian tunes big time, because they're just, I don't know why, but you might be able to hear it actually. And I haven't released it yet, but there's one song where I've got like a little fiddle break and it sounds a little bit kind of not Northumbrian, shall we say. So sometimes influences like that do creep into my own composition. But from the human side of it, oh well, how can I even describe it? What can I say? Like, I suppose it showed us that there's something in, I think, everyone that is very deep, very instinctive. It's almost like there's a little gemstone inside everyone, and they can like glow when they kind of come close together and when they interact. And I think in a lot of day-to-day interactions in society, like if you go to work, if you get on the bus, if you go and buy something in a shop, I'm talking about this gemstone, but I just thought about it, like you're completely kind of covered and you shut off, and this gem is just not lit up. It's just very kind of dull inside you. But then if everybody was able to open themselves to take that part of themselves that can shine and thrive, then yeah, I think everybody has this thing in themselves that just lights up when other people genuinely share something meaningful. And it's hard to find that on a day-to-day basis because we just go through the motions of what's acceptable socially. But if you put in a context where you're sharing music by face-to-face listening and learning, like repeating the words that one person say, like a mother teaching a child to speak, there's something so, I don't know, very, very deeply human about that. If you can be in that way together with people, then this gemstone can properly shine. And I don't know what it is. It's like, it's not love. It's almost like inspiration, human connection. Anyway, it showed us that this is like wildly possible, and that we're kind of dampening our experiences of day-to-day life by working in these quite emotionally, spiritually closed systems, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a beautiful picture with the gemstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fitting description. Yeah. So you're the kind of on this path of an independent artist, an independent female artist. So I'm not sure if the female plays into it, but what would you say is your biggest challenge as an independent artist at the moment, getting your work out?
I think gender always comes into everything because it's the way that we judge and perceive people. One way that we judge and perceive people. But I think it doesn't play out explicitly a lot of the time. So probably all of me experiences are molded by being a woman and presenting as a woman. But yeah, I can't tell you how in like many, many examples. At the minute, I was talking about this. We'll stick with the gemstone thing because that feels like the heart of the conversation. It's a really, really quick, surefire way of like putting out the light in your gemstone is trying to have a career in music today because it's so much jumping through hoops, kind of meeting the requirements of many, many systems that are made to make money, I guess. As in, a lot of my identity as a musician has to come through on socials because that's where people often find the artists. And to be honest, if I completely got rid of all my socials, I don't know what impact. Maybe it would have no impact at all. But every seminar, every workshop that I've gone to that tells you how to have a career in music says you must have a presence on socials, you must do this, you must make your brand come across. So yeah, it makes me into a product and a brand rather than like this gemstone shining human kind of thing. And it makes me measure my success on things like views and likes and shares and all this stuff, which is ridiculous because it's based on algorithms anyway. So yeah, it's kind of disheartening. I think because of the way that music is distributed now. Maybe it would be no better 20 years ago. Maybe it would be no better 40 years ago. This is why it's nice to kind of be a good old fashioned troubadour or a busker or something like that, because every interaction you have is face to face. But yeah, it's like no cash these days as well, so that's very hard. And even if you get a little card machine, there's like 2% goes to the big company that has the card machines or whatever, you know. So yeah, it's tricky for many reasons to keep your like soul alive whilst trying to sell your product, as in the artist that you're coming across as. Yeah. What do you think?
I totally know what you mean. I'm kind of struggling with similar questions at the moment, and I really I've come to the conclusion for myself that while we have these tools, social media, and while everybody is on it, and there is no really good alternative, I think there's things being formed, and I'm quite excited about that. But at the moment, the large masses are still on social media, and I think as long as that's the case, I want to use it to get my message across and to use it as a platform. I mean, I suppose it's in the olden days, it was like the big lit fest, what do you call it? Like the place where you put posters in the town, like the town square.
Yeah.
Do you know, and at least you have a platform where you can post for free. It's not for free, of course, we all know that. We pay in different ways, but by reframing it that way in my head, it kind of makes it more bearable, I suppose, to just see it as something, as long as we don't have a system in place that can take over and is a better way of connecting. I suppose I try to focus on the opportunity more than the negative side.
Yeah.
But
and maybe that's what you have to do.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, to get through.
Yeah. Do you know, you had this video with lots of cherubs and demons, and
Yeah.
I know also that you have a patron space where people can actually follow you. And I think it's such a great idea that you also form your own community away from social media. So you actually have a way to contact your own community. And I don't know, you can tell people how to sign up for that, because I think it's really great space. What is the Cherub's Realm?
So I would say it like Cherub Realm.
Cherub, okay.
Yeah.
Because in German we say Cherubine. I think it's a type of angel, is it?
Yeah, Cherubine. It's like I think, because I looked into this, because when I was deciding what to call this space, I didn't want to just call it cherub and be done. So I looked into kind of the religious kind of hierarchies of angels and things like that. So a cherub's in the hierarchy of angels. But it comes from, I do a song called The Demon Lover, and that doesn't mention cherubs or angels, but it's very much heaven and hell. And it's this woman who's been bad, so she goes to hell, you know, classic. And for the video, I wanted to make that visual. So there's me in a kind of wedding dress in a very dark tunnel, and I've got all these cherubs hanging around my head. Quite creepy. I wanted it to be like so sweet, it's creepy. So it's the cherubs are made of these little baby dolls with wings. So that's where the name came from. And the space is, yeah, basically it just, socials is just depressing and volatile as well. Like, for whatever reason, Meta could just say to me, right, we're banning your account, and then it's all gone. All of that connection that you think you have. Because sometimes I say to people at a gig, oh, would you like to, you know, join the Cherub Realm or the mailing list? And they go, oh no, I follow you on Instagram. I think, oh, that's nice, but it's not permanent. And also it's completely not, it's at the mercy of the big and powerful mighty Meta, you know. So it's a space that is direct. Well, it's over the internet, obviously. I'm not with the people, but it's direct communication between me and anybody who wants to be there. And it's kind of, I suppose, more personal, and I feel less like I have to prepare a certain visual representation of myself, or written representation of myself. It's more direct space.
How can people sign up for that?
Also, on my website, frankiearchermusic.com.
Which I will link it in the notes
Great.
below.
And then there's a link called Cherub Realm. And yeah, there's a free part where I do video diaries, blogs, and some live videos that are not anywhere else. And then if you want to like stay connected and also help me keep making music, then you can pay either £5 or £10. And a few people do that, and it helps a lot.
Great.
But yeah,
Great.
it's up to you. Also, if you don't want to be on it, you don't have to be on it. Like, it's there. You can take it or leave it.
Great. Amazing. What role does spirituality play in your songmaking? And because also the themes, like, we've been talking about angels and hell, and like it's all quite there's a spiritual connotation to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I don't kind of sit and think about spirituality, so I don't put it into words really kind of ever. And I think a lot of me spirituality like comes from me into the song somehow, but I don't know how, or I don't know that it's there, but it just is. So I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not a follower of any particular religion, so I'm not spiritual in that way, but I think there is definitely something more than just kind of mortal existence. And a lot of the time I just like to explore ideas of spirituality, even if it's not my own direct belief. And the album that I'm going to release in 2 months is called it's called The Dance of Death. And it's based on, the Dance Macabre.
Yeah.
It's like this medieval idea that when it's your time, death personified will come and dance with you. And that's fascinating, like a dance to be something that claims you and takes you from your mortal life into the next realm, wherever you're going to be. So yeah, the whole album is full of songs that explore kind of grief and love on the flip side. And yeah, tragedy, loss, death, things like this, mortality. So yeah, it's full of spirituality, obviously, but I wouldn't say that I've put my spirituality in. I'm kind of exploring different spiritualities in there, and my own spirituality will come out in like the choices that I've made, but I don't know that I've done that consciously. It's just whatever I feel is right for the song at the time, I guess. Is that an opt-out?
Not at all. And actually, I think like a lot of what you're saying, the way you're speaking, you spoke about intuition and the way you don't really think about it, but it comes through. And I think it's a deeply female way of engaging with the world, and it's equally as valid as the other approach. And I think we need to stop apologizing for it. I think it's really that's the power we have. That this is the way we engage with the world, and it's equally as valid.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time women are asked to explain themselves as well, to justify a lot. And that's like a double whammy, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah.
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 Yeah. What do you think about that whole thing? About spirituality and art and music?
Well, I've just like
it's a huge
said,
question.
It's a huge question. Like you said, I deeply believe that there is something other than the material world we engage with, and that we're all connected to it. I also believe that there is way more things in this universe than what the eyes can see. And I think we're in constant communication with it. And I think as artists, maybe we have means to connect to that through our creativity, which is so precious, and I'm so grateful for it. I also think that we live in times where this is coming more to the forefront, and I'm really excited about that. Yeah. Yeah. If you had like an abundance of resources, financial and time-wise, and whatever you need, what kind of project would you like to realize? It could be artistically or otherwise. What would you like to birth into this world?
Man, I have been putting the lottery on, but I haven't won. I've also been applying for funding applications, but I haven't won. Man, the first thing that I thought when you said that was that I would just play more, you know? I don't play. I do all of the admin tasks that are required to like sustain my music career. Then I'll, well, you know, there has to be some music making, but I haven't actually sat down and written any music in a while, and playing is even less often than that. So I'd love to just play, like mess around, you know, have creative time with absolutely no like absolutely no strings attached. But in terms of a project, I don't really know. I was thinking the other day, I was listening to Billie Eilish. That's why she's in my head. And she has a song on the Hit Me Hard and Soft album called Bittersweet. And it's kind of in the arrangement, it's quite expansive and almost classical in like the way that it develops. And it has a string quartet or orchestra or some kind of small ensemble, I couldn't tell. And I thought that that is such a beautiful sound. And even though I play violin, I wouldn't be able to play like that. So I was thinking it would be absolutely amazing to write something for strings. I've never done that. But then I thought, so expensive. I can't hire a string quartet or an orchestra, you know. That would be gorgeous to do. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of a big project, I'm happy and I'm satisfied with what I'm doing at the minute. And I just want to be able to do more of it.
Yeah.
So I don't have like any gigantic kind of groundbreaking idea that I just can't do. I just want to keep making more music, basically.
Yeah. Is there any artist you would really love to collaborate with?
Oh man. I think probably maybe some more electronic artists I would like to collaborate with. I'd love to do a song with like Peaches or someone like that. That would be very cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, maybe more on the electronic side would be cool.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'm not sure. Just anybody really. I think also like I would just like to play with anyone.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like I'm feeling quite restricted at the minute in terms of the playing and the creating that I'm doing. That like anything is good. Doesn't have to be like, I don't know, Laurie Anderson, but that would be cool. Could be anyone. Yeah. Do you have one?
Great. I don't think that's where my focus is at the moment. I mean, you know, I've kind of run like a venue for the last 5 years where I kind of put on a lot of artists that I really want to see and support. I think I'm in a time period now at the moment where I kind of want to focus on my own creativity, and yeah, no, doesn't really come to mind at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked a little bit about like the whole message behind your songs, and some of it is you know, quite a serious topic. But I wanted to ask you, is there also something that the time being as it is at the moment with all the like upheaval and chaos that seems to be happening, what makes you feel excited and hopeful at the moment?
Yeah, in-person stuff, grassroots stuff. Um, being away from online, I suppose, as much as possible, and having an experience human to human is important, and nothing will ever replace that.
Yeah.
No app or AI. Although a lot of people now are like legit in relationships with an AI avatar.
Have you met anybody?
Not that I know of, but again, it was some research, I don't know where from, showing that it was like an alarming amount of, it focused on Gen Z people. It said an alarming amount of Gen Z people like have a AI boyfriend or girlfriend and think it's normal. Yeah, because people are born with phones now. So, yeah. I don't know. I also can't give you a source for that, so maybe it's a load of shite, I don't know. But yeah, I think that it's not good for us, it's ticking certain boxes, what we need emotionally and mentally and spiritually, but it's really damaging in other ways to just to be online. It's not good for us. I don't think it's not how we're supposed to exist. So yeah, just turning up somewhere. Even somewhere I just leave the house and just walk with no phone, and literally the only aim I have is just to look at things outside. And that gives us a bit of hope and makes us feel more human as well. Yeah.
Do you know, like for the last 10 years, they kind of said data is the new gold. And I
Yeah.
actually think we're coming into a time period now where human connection is the new gold.
Yeah.
This is what's going to be of immense value in the coming years, and it'll be more and more, seen for what it is. Yeah. Frankie, is there anything that I should have asked you and I didn't ask you? Is there anything you would like people to know about? Where can people find out more about you?
If you want to, because I'm aware I've just been saying that online is shite, and now I'm going to give you a website to go to. I'm also doing gigs, but only in so far this year, only in England. But if anyone wants to have us for a gig anywhere, I'll try and make it happen. So frankiearchermusic.com is the best place to go, basically. That's the one. And from there you can see the Cherub Realm. You can see me music if you want to buy some music to listen to or just listen to it. And if you want to see where I'm playing, then that's the best place to go to. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I know you performed on a big TV show, Jools Holland, no? What influence did that have on your career? Did that give you a big push up or?
Yeah, I think it did. Like lots of the ways that you would measure things like website views and followers and stuff like that, that did get a spike. A lot of the time it makes people take us seriously. Like I go, oh, I'm a musician, and they're like, oh yeah, right. And then I go, oh, I was on Jools Holland, and they're like, oh, okay. So that's the only thing, which is stupid because like what proportion of artists can play on Jools Holland? Like a minuscule number of people. So it's a funny piece of validation to use, I guess. I mean, I'm so lucky to have been on there, definitely. Yeah, it was also at a time in my career which is very, very early. And I was very unsure of myself as an artist and me ability to play live and me ability to communicate what I need as an artist as well. So yeah, it was like a ridiculous thing to be thrown into at such an early stage in my career. It was absolutely crazy. Yeah.
Well, I really admire the path you're going, and I celebrate the what you do artistically. I think it's amazing, and I really wish you like all the luck of the world. And if there's any way I can support you in that path, I would be more than happy. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
being on the podcast. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like, it's beautiful to talk to somebody so, I don't know, nurturing, I guess, and wise as well. So thanks for chatting with us as well here. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie.